Hey friend, welcome back. This is the channel where I talk endlessly about sales and marketing strategies specifically for online teachers. About 6 months ago, I recorded a video around DM setting and what to say and how to sell more classes in the DMs. I am going to do a continuation of that video today, so I will link the original in the caption below this one. The first video talks about the 6 things in the first list here, so it goes all the way through a discovery phase. So you'll also hear this called like a diagnostic or qualification phase. That's step one. Then we talk about the framework and the milestones of your offer, followed by the features. So those are like the deliverables of what you're actually going to be doing if somebody signs up to work with you. Talking about payment, talking about risk reversals, and objection handling. All of that stuff is in the first video linked down below. Today, I'm going to do a deep dive on step number 1 here. So we're going to get really into the discovery phase because traditional sales qualifying, typically it focuses on problem identification. So for a lot of teachers, that doesn't really fit. I mean, if you're working with kids who are like 2 grade levels behind, or they're not testing where they want to be testing, their confidence is really low, they're really struggling with something specific, then cool, you can identify a problem, no big deal. But if you're selling something that's like an enrichment offer, like a book club, I'm going to run with that book club example throughout this video. Like, what's the biggest struggle that has you interested in my book club is a weird question. Like, parents are going to be like, we don't really have a struggle. I don't know what you're talking about. It's going to confuse people, and it's not going to push them toward working with you because they don't really have a struggle. They can't really answer that question. So we are going to look at how to sell for an enrichment offer as well as a problem-based offer, because you definitely, especially if you're teaching reading, writing, or math, there are a lot of core skills where if kids don't have those skills, it quickly becomes a problem. But a lot of the time, we're teaching skills that we don't expect kids to have yet. So if you're doing more of an enrichment offer, this one's for you. Listen up. So in traditional sales qualifying, there are 4 things that you need to hit, and 4 major questions that you need to ask. So I've listed those 4 things in the second list here. They are motivation, urgency, past investment, and desired outcomes. So if you're doing a problem-based offer, you're going to identify the problem. That's the motivation. You're going to ask, how long has this been a problem for? That's the urgency. What have you tried to solve this problem so far? That's the past. And then what would it look like if problem didn't exist? That's the desired outcome. So unless you have a problem, none of those questions are going to work. So when we're talking about enrichment offers, we're flipping it so that instead of identifying a problem, you're identifying their aspiration. And then what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the gap between where they're at now and where they're aspiring to be. Okay? So the motivation is to close that gap, not necessarily solve the problem, but achieve what they are aspiring to achieve. So we are talking to warm leads in this scenario. So this is probably somebody who has opted in either by following you on Instagram or by commenting on a piece of content. So if they are coming in like with a keyword, let's say you've made a post that outlines how you help kids and it says comment keyword. If you want more information, if you want my help, if you want a free resource, whatever it is you're asking them to do, you're going to deliver on that. If you're promising a resource, whatever, send it. But then start asking these questions. So in order to identify the gap, a great opening question is, what made you interested in this offer or this piece of content or whatever it is? You're going to start to look for their motivation. Another kind of angle you can take there is like, what are you hoping that my class, this experience, my content will bring to your child's life? What are you hoping for? What is motivating you? And in the example of a book club, you might ask something like, what kind of reader is your child right now? So those things are going to uncover motivations that aren't necessarily problems. In terms of urgency, again, you're like, it's not like, how long has this been a problem? But how long have you had this motivation? So how long have you been looking for something like this? When did you first notice that your child might benefit from something like this? So we're getting a sense of how urgent is it that you actually fill that gap, meet that aspiration. In terms of past investment, these are like previous attempts that they've made. So what other reading programs or activities have you explored? What has your child's school been doing or your homeschool co-op been doing? Have you tried getting them to do this thing on your own? What happened? What other enrichment activities are they currently doing? Why are those not meeting their needs? Digging into what they've tried is going to give you a really good sense of how willing they are to actually meet that aspiration and close that gap. And then in terms of desired outcomes, you're going to ask questions around like, what would success look like for your family 6 months from now? So in terms of a book club offer, a parent might be like, oh, I would consider this a major success if my kid would just pick up a book on their own without me having to say, okay, it's time to go and read now. Like if I could just catch them reading, that would make me feel like I'm a success. That was a tough word. Or sort of having them envision what success would look like. So something like, how would you envision your kid feeling about reading after being a part of this enrichment offer? So those are the kind of questions you want to ask in order to qualify people for your offer. If you don't hit on those questions before you start to pitch, before you get into like, this is the framework, this is what I offer, these are the milestones that my learners see, this is the meeting time, this is the support you get, all of that stuff is not going to land unless you know their motivation, the urgency behind it, what they've tried in the past, and what they are looking to achieve. And they're probably not going to listen to your pitch if you haven't taken the time to understand those things. So that is how you should be flowing your DM chats in order to get people interested in the framework and the features of your offer. So once you know the motivation, urgency, past, and outcomes, it's really important to get consent to talk about how you can help with those things. So a question that you ask in the DMs could be as simple as, do you want help? Can I tell you about how I help? Asking consent really, really builds trust, which is especially important when you're working with kids. Parents are going to be leery, not only because you are an internet stranger asking for their credit card, but you're asking for live FaceTime with their child. So the trust element is super, super important. And by showing interest in what motivates them, what they've tried, and what they're looking to achieve, you will build trust. So sometimes you can see right away that this is a perfect candidate for my offer, but you still need to go through these 4 things. Otherwise, you're going to come off like you have major sales breath and you're just looking to get their money and get them signed up. Digging into the 4 diagnostic pieces helps you to build trust, and it helps you to pitch in a way that's more personalized to them. Because if they've already tried something in the past that didn't work for them, that's going to come up as an objection if you pitch too early. So you want to customize the framework and the features of your offer to ease their worries about those things that happened in the past that weren't so good. But if you didn't ask that question, then you don't know how to present that to them. So that is how you pitch an enrichment offer without having to create a pain point like, oh, the school isn't doing this adequately enough. Like I've seen teachers try to push a pain point when really all you need to do is identify their motivation. It might not be a major struggle, right? Not everybody is looking to get off of struggle street. Some people have kids who are doing just fine who want to do amazing, right? So it's about finding motivation more so than creating a problem. I hope that was helpful. If you have questions for me, please find me on Instagram.